This week in Israel, two religious parties walked out of the government. Not over taxes, not over borders, but over one question. Should yeshiva students be drafted into the army? This isn't about coalition math. It was about the soul of the country. This isn't a political conversation. It's a moral reckoning. A reckoning about service, about fairness, about the unity, morale, and resilience of the country. And it's not a new question. When the tribes of Reuben and Gad approached Moses with a request to settle outside the land of Israel, Moses didn't argue theology. He asked one thing: shall your brethren go to war while you sit here? That line, buried in the book of Numbers, has become a litmus test for national solidarity. It draws a hard line between tribes and special interests and the social contract between being part of a people and stepping outside of it. Today, with special guest Agame Gelb, founder of Mothers on the Front Line, we go deep into one of the rawest debates in Israeli society, a debate about military service, values, shared responsibility, and what happens when one group opts out. This is not a story about war, it's a story about belonging. Welcome to Madlik. My name is Jeffrey Stern, and at Madlik we light a spark or shed some light on a Jewish text or tradition. Along with Rabbi Adam Mintz, we host Madlik Disruptive Torah on your favorite podcast platform and now on YouTube. We also publish a source sheet on Sfaria, and a link is included in the show notes. This week's Parsha is Matot, and we are joined by Agame Gelb, founder of Mothers on the Front Line, an Israeli grassroots not-for-profit fighting for the soul of Israel. Normally at Madlik, we focus on Torah texts, and this week will be no exception. But this week, we will be privileged to hear from a Torah. The book of Proverbs warns us not to ignore Torat Imecha, the Torah of our mothers. So join us for Shall Your Brothers Go to War Without You? Adam, Agamit, welcome to the podcast. I realized this morning that this is the first time we're having a podcast with three podcasters on it. Adam, you have your podcast, My People Will Be Your People, part of Project Ruth. And Agamit, you have Masa Kumto, which translates roughly in Mother on the Journey of the Beret, like the Green Beret, the soldier beret.
Yeah.
So you both are activists. You're involved in the Jewish Israeli community, and we have podcasts. What a joy is that? So Agamit, welcome. I thought we'd start with just a short history of you personally, and then segue into the organization that you helped found, Israeli Mothers on the Front Line.
Yes. So hi, and thank you for having me here. And I'm very excited to be here. So I'm a mother of three. One of them is a combating soldier, and we actually founded Imahot B'Chazit, which is Mothers on the Front Line, on April 2023, and we're already celebrated over 2 years. And we actually founded this movement because for decades the Haredi community in Israel has been exempt from military service, and while other Jewish men and women are being drafted, and we saw this major violation of the principle of equality and of sharing a national burden, and also national solidarity in a way. And we also saw the national security situation, and after a couple of months we wake into the October 7th war, which made us understand that we need all sectors in Israel to serve the country and be part of this draft duty. So this is the background for the movement.
When we first talked, I was amazed when you gave that date, because that date when you were founded was before October 2023. And so, with the intuition only mothers can have, you realized that this issue cut to the core of Israel. It's an issue of fairness, it's an issue of the social contract, it's an issue of values. And I listened to your podcast in Hebrew as best I could, and amazing episodes. You interview other mothers, and one of the mothers describes what happened. I think you ask everybody where they were on October 7th.
Yeah.
And one of the mothers was living in the United States with her Israeli husband for 30 years, and her children were lone soldiers. In Hebrew, that's chayalim bodedim. Is that right?
Yeah.
And she had never understood that to be something that had any baggage with it. But her American friends would say, that sounds so sad. And then she realized what they were going through. So talk a little bit about the mother part, because I think what makes what you do so fascinating is what unites the many members. I think you say you have 70,000 mothers involved with this. Is that your mothers? Does that cut across all demographics and all tribes, so to speak, in Israel?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're totally right. We heard Gallant back then talking about our existential threat over here with security issues that are coming ahead. And we as mothers for combatant soldiers realize that we are going to hit something big. And yeah, we have already 7,000, but I definitely think that no, there isn't any mother in Israel that will forget the October 7th morning. I will not forget it in my whole life. But I definitely think that my overview of mothers, that they are the pillars the of home, right? And the family. And also in a way, they're also the pillar of the community. And we see mothers as the engine that can really change the society over here and preserve the country democratic and equal. And we gather all kinds of, like, we have educational and also resilience program that we gather all mothers from all sectors in Israel, because the equal draft is, the consent for equal draft in Israel is about 80% of the population here. So I think that this issue is a consensus that everyone agreed that it should be enforced as soon as possible.
So you mentioned 80%. Of the 70,000 mothers, what percentage are Haredi mothers?
So there aren't a lot of Haredi mothers that sends their sons to the military, right? So we have only couple of hundreds of Haredi soldiers were drafted this year, but we have some of them, and they are talking to us and working with us. But they also have their own groups, which they understand each other and talk to each other on the same level, right? But we have also a secular group of mothers, and they're all combined together because we as mothers, we have mutual language of anxiety and love and everything that we as mothers know how to handle with our children. And this is a very good basis to use for activism in the end of the day.
So, I think one thing that our listeners have to understand is what makes Israel different is it's a people's army. It's not like the United States where at this point in time, the military is by option, and many families are military families and have a strong tradition. In Israel, everybody goes to the army, but that's where The not is because not everybody goes to the army. In one of your podcasts, a mother was describing what it's like to have a baby boy in Israel. And she says, you feel the first thing you think about is the bris. The next thing you think about is the joy. And the third thing you think about is you look into the future 18 years and you say, another soldier is born. That is such a powerful statement that affects literally the mothers. But I think one of your challenges is that you need to be able to break through to other mothers. And I think of any group, you have the highest potential because you have so much. A mother is a mother is a mother and has that. The other thing, when I first talked to you, I didn't sense a feeling of anger and bitterness. And I'm sure it's there somewhere because you can't go through the experiences as you've gone through. But on the other hand, there is the potential to reach out as a mother with love and embrace. And so I think what you're doing is really important. What are you doing right now? What are your activities? If you could go through the gamut, you talked about, I know in the podcast you bring on psychologists and there's resiliency training. It's not all about getting the Haredim into the draft.
Absolutely. So I think that we and thank you for the sensitivity and of course we are angry and we have those and this anger all the time because we filed petition to the Supreme Court. We had two of them, and they actually those petitions canceled the exemptions of the Haredi sector from the army. And of course, we push the army to send all the draft orders that they can send because we are fighting over 21 months and we want to see everyone under this burden, but we don't call it as a burden. And that's why I also say that it's kind of love because we think of it as it's our duty, but it's also something that we are proud to serve our country. And this is something that cannot come only with legal petitions or anything else. It should come also from education plans, which we're doing, because if you love the country, you will be loyal and you'll come to serve her. And we are raising our children to love the country and to serve them, to serve the country, and it all starts at home. So what we were doing, we were actually filing petitions to the Supreme Court. And as you said, we are still growing the movement, and of course we do a lot of involvement in and engagement in the field. We want to create more mothers that will come and raise their voice, because when you have a lot of people like in the field that are engaging and doing those activities, it's really a power. We also work a lot with municipal and communities on the ground, and we do a lot of actions to make sure that whoever serves get the rights that he needs for this resilience in this kind of a very challenging time. And of course, we promote equality in education and in the resilience program. But I must say that we're going to pursue another, we're going to continue petition in the Supreme Court very, very soon, because we see that the Haredi sector is not exempt from military by law, but their leaders, their religious leaders tell them not to come. And they're like, they say, if you get a draft order, just throw it away, put it in the toilet or something, and that's it. So we're fighting also on this level, also in the Supreme Court.
The word I think that you were looking for before, in terms of not so much an obligation, in English it's called a privilege, and in Hebrew it's called a zchut. It's a zechut to serve. And that's also a biblical word and a Talmudic word. I think last week we learned about the daughters of Tzlafchad, who came and petitioned in the Supreme Court named Moshe to change the law. So I think also what you're doing is very much in the tradition of our people, and I just applaud it and love it. We're going to jump into the text because I think what we do at Madlik is we look at our ancient texts and we don't look at them through the lens of anybody else besides ourselves. You talk about the leadership. I am not going to engage in a halachic dispute with any other Jew. I'm going to look at our texts and I'm going to see what I see there and what they say to us. And I think that's much more important. And we lead by example. We would love to believe at Madlik that no Jew can give away the privilege of looking at their texts to anybody else. Nobody owns our Torah, just as nobody owns our country and nobody owns the social contract. So as I said, the Jews, the Israelites, are about to cross the Jordan River. It's a pivotal moment. Maybe you could even say it's an October 7th moment. And all of a sudden, two Shvatim, two tribes come, Reuben and Gad, and they say to Moshe, we're actually happy here. We don't want to continue on. You fight without us. And Moshe says, and you can hear the disbelief in his voice, your brothers will go to war and you will sit here. I obviously was struck by the word tishvu. It sounds a lot like a yeshiva to me. But the point is that it's staying out of the fight. And then what happens is Moshe goes through arguments and he actually brings them back to the Meraglim, which was the greatest fiasco in the Israelite political dynamic. And it says that what was the big sin of the Meraglim? It says, V'yanuhu et lev b'nei Yisrael. They took away, the English translation is varied here. It says away, they turned the minds of the Israelites. This is not only a question of do you go to the draft, do you not go to the draft? It's a question of the morale of the Jewish people. It's a question of resilience. We are almost 2 years into this war. Your children, your boys are going back and back and back to the army. They're leaving their wives, they're leaving their children, they're leaving their jobs. And the most important factor is not anymore guns and airplanes. It's resilience. It's morale. And this is exactly what the text focuses on. And it says, you now, to these two Shvatim, are a breed of sinful fellows. You are bringing calamity upon all this people. What it's saying is this is not a segment. This is not like as I said in the beginning, it's not about coalition numbers. Do we lose a few votes? Do we win a few votes? It's about all this people.
I just want to say that this is also about leadership, because the question is, Moshe is challenged by the people. We don't want to go. And the question is, how does the leader respond? And in this case, Moshe stands up. And he says, no, that's not acceptable. You need to fight ahead of everybody else. So you're right, Jeffrey, that we're worried about how the other tribes are going to react to this request. But also, it was a challenge to Moses' leadership. And while Moses didn't always in these parshiot respond with strength, right here he responds as a really good leader.
I think we're going to see through the rabbinic commentaries that he moved the conversation from him personally to the people. But let's just finish the verses because an interesting word comes up. So what happens is we actually have a good ending here, a paradigm shift, if you will. Not only do the two tribes say we're going to fight, but they say we're going to stay till the end, not just until things have solidified, but until the whole chalukah is made. And it uses words, a terrible translation, shock troops. But in Hebrew, it's chalutzim. They said, we will be the chalutzim. And I think one of the unintended consequences of missing a demographic, such as the Haredim, in every vote where we vote about peace and security, and they don't have have a horse in the race. They are not nogea b'davar. That affects their vote. I think the whole polarity of Israel could change if the Haredim were nogea b'davar, and if their mothers were worrying about their children. Who knows how they would vote? We need their voice as much as we need their children. They might be leaders in the peace movement. They might be leaders. Who knows? It's a fascinating dynamic, but I think in these verses, it brings out the challenges here. So Rashi, the Sforno says, in terms of what Moses' argument was, surely you did not think for a moment that you could get away with such an arrangement, he puts into Moses' mouth. Your suggestion, therefore, can only have the effect of undermining the morale of your brethren. He hits the nail on the head. We are talking about the social contract and the morale of our people. In a different commentary, Birchat Asher, which is actually a very new commentary, the word that he says is B'derech klal yotzim lemilchama. We go out to war. Here it says Yavo lemilchama, coming to war. He says this is a war of existence. This is a war that came upon us. It wasn't our choice. This is not some adventure. And for that type of war, we all have to be together, because if we're not together, we lose everything. I just love the way the rabbinic commentaries are using this as kind of a mirror to comment on issues that are with us even till today. And then we talk about the paradigm shift. And Rashi says that what they did at the end was they came 360 degrees and they made an additional promise to stay on to the 7 years. And that's what I was talking about before, that we have to understand what we're dealing with here. The potential. It's a terrible situation now, but the potential is so large because all of a sudden, 20% of the electorate will be voting on issues of war and peace with skin in the game.
I think that if we look at the Haredi sector already, so there are 14% of the Jewish, of the Israel population right now. So demographic-wise, we need them to be part of this people's army, and we don't have any choice on even on demographic or economical level. So it should be there. And of course, that equality, it's also, like for us, it's not just a legal principle, it's a core value. And I want to give you as an example as a mother for a moment, if I may. I think that when you imagine the mother of two boys, right? Who tells one child you have only rights and one child you have rights and duties, right? So which one of them will appreciate what they receive at home eventually and want to give back? You have any suggestions? So I think that the same applies to any state. When a state allows some citizen to only receive and be exempt of duties and never give back, it destroys both love and loyalty and solidarity and everything. So I think it's very much resemble to what we have right now in Israel.
That's what Jeffrey said, what you call the social contract, right?
Yeah.
It's how one group relates to the other group.
Of course.
I love the fact that you bring the mashal is from a mother's perspective of raising her children, because that never goes stale and it never resonates. It's timeless. And that's what I meant by Torat Imecha. It's so obvious. And I think the challenge is, I've got to believe, and we've had discussions on our podcast with Haredim who are fighting very hard for the draft, and they're doing it quietly behind the scenes because the issue is those leaders. And, the Haredi man who wakes up in the morning and looks in the mirror, and he has 9 kids, and he can't have a job because he has a draft for deferment that requires him to study in the yeshiva. He's not totally committed to studying in the yeshiva, or maybe he is. But Torah im derech eretz, he knows he has to provide for his family. And then he walks through the streets and he cannot be blind to the fact that the whole country of Israel is being attacked, and that's him too, and his safety is there. You have to think in terms of him and his wife, the mother of those 9 kids, the self-respect that they must be looking for. And I think there's going to be a tipping point, and it's going to take people like you, mothers like you, on one side who are approaching it from the pragmatic, motherly point of view that you are, and people in the inside who are trying to undermine that leadership. And, at the end of the day, I think it's not an argument that's based on philosophy or theology. It's really an argument. The Haredim argument is, and I think one of their rabbis said it, maybe it was the last Sephardic chief rabbi, that if you go into the army as a Haredi, you don't leave as a Haredi. And it means that you lose what is so precious to them. And part of that has to do, I think, and you've identified this, is the army has to be prepared for the Haredim. Something in the past that they looked at as maybe, let's do something simli, or this would distract us. But now with those boys of yours going back into miluim on a constant basis, it's no longer a luxury. The army has to be able to address the needs of the Haredim and take away any sibah, any excuse for them not being able to do that. Are you working on that front as well?
Yeah, so first of all, we need to understand that even our children are not getting into the army and getting out of the army the same one, right? They are on a constant change, and I think that the war really changed them, and some of them are getting back with post-trauma symptoms, and some of them are getting back wounded, and some of them are getting back totally different people. And I know that this is a risk, and it's crazy, right? And an Israeli mother sends her precious thing to the army, and I'm taking here huge risk when I'm sending him, because I know what the consequences might be, right? So no one sends his child to the army and expect to get him back as original one. And the other thing that I must say, that we were talking with the IDF commanders a lot, and they are really getting there. They build special bases. They dedicated special troops for Haredi soldiers. They have their own bases with their own, things that they need for kosher things and stuff. So I don't think that there is a gap anymore not to send them to the army. They had really big step and huge step just to make them come. But as you said, their leaders are actually, I think it's in Israel, it's against the law to tell them not to go to the army. And, I don't think that any citizen in Israel should be above the law. And this is something we all should understand right now.
You mentioned about courage. The fact that it takes a lot of courage for a mother to send her son to the army, knowing that the child, the soldier, is going to come back different. I think that's something that we don't talk about so much. And the fact that the Haredim need more courage. They have a lot of religion. They have a lot of observance, of ritual, of mitzvot, but they're lacking courage. They're afraid. And I think that's something, Agame, that, the mothers and the organizations like yours, they teach courage to the Jewish people.
Yeah, I think it's more of like, we really love our country, and we are raised based on this love, and we want our country to be stable and strong, and this we were taught to look at the country as our home. So when you feel attached to something like this, you are doing this courageous and maybe stupid stuff, I don't know, but this is kind of this is how we do it. And I think that that this is part of what we're doing on a daily basis, because if we teach the Holocaust. If we go and travel around Israel and we show our kids on what they fight for, right? For the country, they need also to have those pillars in their education programs in order to make sure that they know the country, they love it, and they get attached to it. And yeah, this is a courage, but we all know what we had in the past when we didn't have a country to live in, right? So it's not that, we all remember it.
I think the metaphor of our parsha, where those two tribes are standing outside of the country, and actually what the decision that they're making is, are they in or are they out? And one of the commentaries, I think, really pushes the right button. He said, "She'atem rotzim lahafrid atzmachem mikahal Yisrael," and it goes further and says, "Umoasim be'eretz hakadosha." If you do not cross that Jordan, if you do not consider achechem, your brothers, then you literally are moasim. You are detesting God. You're detesting the land, and more importantly, and most importantly, the people. And I think in the Haggadah, we all talk about the four children. And the Rasha, the only thing the Rasha does that's wrong is he refers to the people as them, and not me, and not us. Ulefi shehotzi et atzmo min haklal kafara be'ikar. What you were talking about a second ago is, if we love this country, if we love our people, if we love our Torah and our land, there's really no discussion to be had here. And I think that probably those leaders who are against this, it's not for religious reasons. It's to maintain control over their mandate, over their tribe, and they're going to have to learn to let go, and they're going to have to learn to read the Parsha and to read our Torah and to listen to the Torah Timecha, listen to our mothers. But I was just, you got emotional before. I was shaken when you said we are all changed, and we are all making sacrifices. And I think we just so respect you and your children and our people. We try here in the States to do whatever we can to provide support, but we are just inspired by you, and we're here for you. And there will be a link in the show notes to your Amutah. You can contribute to the Amutah through PEF, the organization that I run. I'll also provide a link to the website. And really, just keep up your work, keep up your voice, keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you for everything that you do. It really was an honor to be able to share this podcast. Parshiot Matot Maseh, and this is right before Tisha B'Av, so we pray Hashivenu Hashem Elecha V'Nashuva, that things should go back, and that sense of democracy that goes all the way back to this story of Reuben and Gad. You should have your role and be able to return us to that democracy.
Thank you so much. I'm really, it was an honor to meet you and talk to you. And I feel a bit emotional, but very, very much grateful. And yeah, I know it might sound crazy that we still do it over and over again, but we believe in it. And I think that we will make Israel better, democratic, and a very stable Jewish country. And thank you for all the support you are giving us.
Thank you so much. Shabbat
Thank you
shalom.
so much.